right, folks. All right. Thank you all who are listening. We'll be getting started shortly. Let me just go over, if you've been watching the show, you know what we do in regards to talking about some of the announcements. So if you can hear me, let me know if you can hear me, if you're on Facebook, if you can hear me. We're going to get started. So for those who are here right now watching this, you see today that we have with us, we have our sister. Her name is Sister Wendy Muhammad, right? And she's a multi-million-dollar businesswoman. And not good, my brother said we can hear. So before we get right into the actual interview, I just want to go over some of the announcements. Just talk about and give some background on why we do what we do, you know, why we do what we do. So when we look here, this, as you see, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on December the 1st, 2021, the minister wrote, let's see, you all are not seeing this in 1 second. Let's back up. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan wrote about how he wrote a letter to then President George Bush Jr. on December the 1st, 2001. And in this interview, the minister, in this letter rather, the minister said how, he talked about how, he said, I'm writing you from a prison without bars that has been made for me because of the passion for truth, justice out of which I speak, and the propaganda that which makes me appear to as many as anti-white, anti-Christian, anti-Semitic, and anti-gay. None of these names accurately describe who I am. I hope that you will be open your heart to hear what I see. Okay, we got to do this. I want to do that 1 second. Here we go. Let me go back. We had a little issue, technical stuff. All right, here we go. You should see this now. You should see this. So here's the excerpt from the actual the letter. I'll read it again. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says, I write you from a prison. He says, a prison without bars that has been made for me because of the passion for truth, justice out of which I speak, and the propaganda that makes me appear to be to many as anti-white, anti-Christian, anti-gay. None of these names accurately describe who I am. I hope that you will open your heart to what I am writing, notwithstanding the prison from which I'm writing. This was on December the 1st, 2001. And brothers and sisters, this is one of the main reasons why we've been doing these I Have a Testimonies, is that we're seeking people who've had the opportunity to experience the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on a first-hand basis, where they can serve as what they call in history, they call it primary sources, right? Eyewitness accounts, where they can testify that this man, from their experience, not from what somebody told them, but what they've seen themselves, heard themselves, and experienced themselves, where they can talk about how the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is not this monster, not this hater that the media and those who dislike him trying to make him about. I've been blessed to have the opportunity to be in the presence of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan several times. And every time, brothers and sisters, you know, I leave there with a desire, wanting other people to experience him. A goal of mine is to have it where the laborers in our city can have the opportunity to meet him, my family, the believers, so they can really see that this is a very precious jewel that Allah has placed in our midst. So I'm big on quantitative data and trying to get data to measure about what we're doing and the impact of what we're doing. So here you're going to see where we did a survey, and 90% of the people who watched these testimonies, and they were not just Muslims, they said that these testimonies have helped them with their faith and even as a believer in God. And over 90% also said that these testimonies have helped them to gain a better understanding of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And that is the goal in which we had. And let me tell you why that's important. This is not something just to praise the minister. This is not this type of session, even though he's a man that's worthy of praise. We all are worthy of praise. That's why we've been blessed to wear the name Muhammad. But if we can understand and see the value of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, my personal belief is that it would have a direct impact on you and I seeing our own value as well. Because we can't say that the minister is valued and then we don't see ourselves as valuable. And of course, we have our own shortcomings, as the minister said in the July 4th lecture. You know, he said all of us have our own. He said none of us are free without sin. That's no excuse. But sometimes because of our shortcomings, it prevents us from seeing our value. We are valuable. And if we were not valuable, God would have not come himself. And that's the truth for every man, woman, and child. So when we go further, as we see with this is just what one of the persons said, one of the feedbacks that they gave with the testimony. They said, the testimonies have strengthened me even more in my faith and conviction that no matter what is going on, I'm following the right man, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and the Nation of Islam will live on. Also, many of them touched on struggles in their triumphant and very relatable way, talking about those who came on to give their actual testimony. That's just another statement that someone said right there. But let's get to it. We're coming to our sister. I just want to go through these last little points. So follow us on YouTube. You can go to our mosque YouTube page at mosque46AV and our Instagram page at mosque_46. And while this is important, you can find out what we're doing here in the city of New Orleans, especially in light of this COVID. On the YouTube page, we're putting together a playlist, and this playlist compiles the minister's actual words related to this controversy of them calling him anti-Semite. And I'm realizing that many people have not taken the time out to hear the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan for themselves. But you really should hear this. And when people are talking about the minister is a hater, he's an anti-Semite, you can send them the actual words of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. We're also putting together a playlist dealing with the whole Malcolm X controversy. So, you know, Allah says in the Quran that we should hurl truth and falsehood until we knock out his brains. And that's what we definitely plan on doing. If you're in need of prayer, any of your family members are in need of prayer during this COVID and even beyond this COVID, please submit your names or their names of your loved ones so we can begin to actually pray on their behalf. And dear brothers and sisters, we're in the process of working to become debt-free here in the city of New Orleans. And we're in the process of having a mosque payoff mortgage drive. Whatever you can contribute. You see the Cash App at $Mosque46. You can visit www.noineworleans.com/give. Whatever you can give, we would appreciate it. If you can just share the flyer, we would appreciate it and send it to those who know about the work that we've been striving here to do in the city of New Orleans. And inshallah, on next Sunday, we're going to have our brother, he's formerly known as Brother Hugh of the San Diego study group. He's a San Diego student minister, Brother Hugh Muhammad, but he's now Brother Abdul Waliullah Muhammad. So tune in on next Sunday, inshallah, to hear our brother. But today, what we have in our midst today, brothers and sisters, and I'm so excited to have the opportunity to interview this sister, and she willingly accepted. I've heard a lot about her before I've actually met her. This is our sister Wendy Muhammad. So let me take care of this technical stuff, and we can get right on to the interview. Thank you all for your patience, and we're about to get it. Let me get it. Here we go. Start our sister's video. So for those who are on, if I stop your video, it's nothing personal. You can still see it. You gotta unmute yourself, my sister. There we go. Right, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, salam. So sis, once again, as I said it before, thank you for accepting the invitation to be on the show and to get our audience the opportunity, those who don't know you, that they can have an opportunity to know you. So we can get straight to it. So let's start off here. Can you share with those to the listening and the viewing audience a little bit about your life prior to becoming introduced to the teachings of the Most High Elijah Muhammad and deciding to become a member of the Nation of Islam?
Yes, sir. I should first say that I was blessed with the name of Sajda. So I'm now Sister Sajda. And in since Wendy is branded so much, people still call me Wendy, which is fine. And I put them both on social media so that praise be to Allah. So my life before the teachings. So I grew up, I'm a Midwestern girl. I grew up in Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska. And very white environment at that time, as it was in Nebraska. Um, Went to a lot of different schools. I was one of those children that they call gifted, if you will. I went to probably 6 or 7 different schools by the time I was in the 8th grade, because my dad would just move me around to different programs, and my mom would be like, okay, let's go. And so the first time I actually, it's an interesting story, I actually saw the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I was a little girl sitting on the floor in my grandmother's house, and my uncle was reading a Jet magazine that had the messenger on the cover. And
Mm.
there was something about the magazine, and I just remember the feeling that I got, and I kept looking at it, and he was drinking a beer and reading the Jet. And so as soon as he put the book down, I snatched it and ran upstairs and put it in my room. And every night, I read that book until my grandmother found it and threw it away. And
Mm.
to this day, I keep that Jet magazine. I found a copy on eBay in my nightstand because there was just something about it at that time. I came in the nation right after college. I had literally just graduated. I had taken a job in Indianapolis, Indiana, and I went to school in Iowa State University, and I wanted to move to Chicago, but the company that I had gotten hired with, they didn't have any jobs in Chicago, so they sent me to Indianapolis. And I thank Allah for that, because had they not done that, I would not have met Sister Lisa R. Muhammad and her family, and they brought me into the nation. And from the moment that they invited me, I already decided, I knew that this was what I wanted to do. I was mad because I couldn't get my ex like right away. I wanted my ex like, I didn't understand the process. I was like, why can't I just get my ex now? I thought when you did the pledge card, you got your ex and you were in. And so I just immediately started helping to bring people in and introduce them to the teachings. I started teaching orientation. Um, Before I actually recited, the minister came to Indianapolis to speak, and Sister Lisa came and got me out of the audience and took me in the back, and introduced me to then Brother Wazir Muhammad, who was the national accountant, and Brother Kamal Muhammad, who was the national secretary. And at that time, I was working in accounting at a public accounting firm. And Brother Wazir kept saying, sister, you moving to Chicago. We need sisters like you. The minister needs you. And I was like, well, I got to get my ex first. And I was, and Sister Lisa was running it down, boy. She's done this, she's done that. Man, she was presenting. I mean, talk about a lieutenant. She wasn't playing. She was selling me. And they were like, no, 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 you coming. And so when we got back after the minister left, and I ended up reciting, I was so anxious to recite. I recited in the check post, assistant captain, and and um, and then I moved to Chicago, like within a week, and I started working in the national secretary's office. Worked closely with the palace staff, and and that was during the time when the minister was doing all the stop the killing tours and the I mean, he was on the move. We were there as the youth at that time. I think I might have been like 23, 22, 23. And the minister was on the move. I mean, it was hard to keep up with him. He was teaching everywhere. It would be nothing for him to pop up at the mosque. And, can you imagine sitting at your desk and you hear all this shuffling and heels clicking and they say the minister's in the building, so we running around getting everything together. And I became very close to the minister's family, as well as the Muhammad family, to the messenger's family. And we were just all a family. We just soldiered together. We put together Savior's Days, did money drives. We were in the streets. We had, I taught orientation. I had so many sisters in orientation. We ended up having 2 classes on a Saturday, a 9 a.m. and a noon. And it just, the minister's love for us made us want to love what he loved. And so that's how we soldiered. And that's that's the gist of why I love the teachings to this day, because his love for us was just so great, and his example of, you know, rebuilding a nation from nothing. And if you think about that, if you know anything about construction and you put it in those terms, um, renovation is harder than just new construction. And so he renovated this whole thing from nothing, um, and, you know, on his back. And, you know, there were those that helped, you know, which we thank Allah for, but he pushed, and he was working, and he was on the move. And like I said, it was no joke keeping up with the minister back in, you know, back in those days. And like I said, we were anxious and ready. You know, there was no sleeping. We barely ate. National Secretary used to joke around and say, "Sister Wendy, you better go eat you around here hula hooping with like with a Cheerio," because we just was so excited about the teachings. That's all we did, from all day, all night. I mean, we get home 10, 11 o'clock, we soldiered all day. And you know, I never forgot that. That just instilled something in me that I am so honored. I can't tell you how honored I am, not only to just know the minister, but to know these teachings and to be able to incorporate them in my life, and to be able to have them put me in a position where I am today, to be able to assist him in the best way that I can, because a lot of people aren't blessed to have this knowledge. And so that was kind of my life, you know, growing up Midwest, going to school in the Midwest, got right into corporate America, got introduced to the teachings immediately, and then just started soldiering.
That's a very, very, very interesting journey, and is interesting. I had the opportunity to watch an interview that you did with Brother Ben X on his podcast, and you spoke about how you always had a business awareness, even as a young child. You talked about how when you would go to school, how you viewed school, you viewed the basic like they were all working for you. How did the teachings of the Most High Elijah Muhammad, specifically when he talked about economic self-sufficiency and doing for self, how did the teachings nurture and continues to nurture that mindset?
So for me, what it did was, I've always been a spiritual person. You know, growing up as a child, I was always praying, and my grandmother was really into the church. And so when she was reading her hymnals, I was reading them. But prior to hearing the teachings, I had a separation. I had my business life, and then I had my spirituality. And so when I would go to the work or go to the office, I'd leave spiritual Wendy at home. And so what the teachings helped me to understand was how to mesh those two and bring the spirituality and understand what doing for self really meant. So from a spiritual aspect, I understood doing for self. But then from a technical aspect, because I had the business training, I got it. Like I understood, okay, this is how, you know, how we need to do it. And so that's what it did for me. It just brought it all together. And so now my approach to business is a very spiritual one. And I think that accounts for a lot of why I've been able to be blessed with the success in business that I have, because it's a very spiritual journey to me.
And this, in addition to that as well, you spoke about in the interview with Brother Ben, you talked about self-improvement study guides. And what was interesting, you mentioned the study guides as a benefit in a way that I hadn't heard other people mention it before, where you talked about how the study guides help you in your financial success, right? Can you explain how they help you specifically in that specific area?
So there's so many aspects of the study guides, but when it comes to money, we have an adversarial relationship with money as Black people. And so when you use those study guides to clean up some of your emotional residue from being a slave, if you will, or having a colonized mind. It helps you to see money differently. So your emotional relationship with money changes. And I started to use the study guides to dissect that, understanding how my will would impact my ability to make money and attract money and even handle money. So, like I said, you can't be disconnected from doing for self. So, your spirituality has to be the overlay to your ability to do for self. So, when I see money, there has to be an intention behind it. When I spend money, there has to be a relationship or an intention behind it. You know, whether it's buying black, making sure that I spend money with people that respect me if I can, understanding when I get money in, how do I see that? What does money do? You probably hear me say, I'm working on becoming a billionaire. And a lot that makes a lot of people uncomfortable, but it's true. And the reason being is because money is just experiences. And so if this is my platform, you meet all these millionaires and billionaires out here, they'll say, oh, my platform is domesticated animals, or my platform is, wind chimes or breast cancer or whatever their platform is. If this is my platform, which is helping with the resurrection of Black people and helping Black people to do for self and to be able to create an economy so that we're not dependent upon an economy that has continued to oppress us, then I have to have my spirituality in play when it comes to how I see money. And so rising above emotions into the thinking of God was one of the biggest ones that really opened me up to a lot. It made me go and study and become an emotional intelligence coach. So I got certified in emotional intelligence so that I can teach and train emotional intelligence, because one of the first prayers that I had when I was sitting in the mosque, the first prayer I had where I referred to God as Allah, I said, Allah, if you allow me to use my intuition and to be able to have intuition to be able to receive you, then I promise to be responsible with it. And and I've had people say to me, Wendy, you could have been where you are a long time ago if you dropped this spiritual stuff. But that's just who I am. And business is my gift. And it's understanding processes and being able to put things together is my gift, and spirituality is my gift as well, from Allah, because were it not for that, that's a gift. Were it not for that, then I think that I would have some disconnectedness with what it is that I do from a business standpoint. So study guides are and have been very, very important to me as I develop and as I continue to develop as a businesswoman.
Wow. You talked about that adversarial relationship, and I've seen this in religious communities where people would talk about the benefit of money, the necessity of money, but then kind of take an ode to poverty. What advice would you give to those who are watching it right now, or even will watch this video later, in regards to how to break that inconsistency as it relates to our views and handling of money?
Brother Willie, some people, I grew up Catholic. My family is from Louisiana, so most of them are Catholic. Yeah, you didn't know that?
What part? What part of Louisiana?
Park, St. Martinville, Lafayette.
Okay. Yeah, okay, that's not too far from us. All right, you're a Louisiana girl. All right.
Yep. So so some people though take a vow of poverty because they don't know how to do anything else. And so the first thing you have to do is you have to deconstruct that psychology. And I teach a class where I tell people, let's talk about all the things that you learned about money when you grew up. Heard things like money don't grow on trees, and my grandmother used to say your money is your best friend. You ain't got no friends if you ain't got no money, and all of that kind of stuff. You got to go through and deconstruct that. And something that I learned, in working with the minister is to focus on having those granular levels of integrity with yourself and with others when it comes to money, and to always be of more value than what it is that you receive. So sometimes we take a vow of poverty because we don't know anything else. We don't know how to get money and earn money unless we are working a job, and we don't know how to create. And so the first thing we got to do is change the way we see money. And sometimes you have to take the focus off of the money. So the first time I experienced this was in the nation working at the National Secretary's office. And I said, okay, we got to raise this money, because if we don't raise the money, then we don't get to have Savior's Day, or we don't get to have this event. So we would go out and sell ads and do whatever we had to do. I remember being out and just pounding the pavement, going from business to business, trying to sell ads for the Savior's Day book so that we could present our Savior's Day gift to the minister. So what I started to interpret with that is that it's not about the money. It's about being able to have this experience of Savior's Day so that more people can come and help the minister. And so I started to interpret that in my own life. It's not about the money. It's about the experiences that I can have and that I can create for myself and for other people. And that's what he does for us with the money and the gifts that we give to him. He turns right back around, gives it right back to us in the form of various different experiences, whether it's events or whether he purchases something that we can benefit. And so sometimes you got to take your mind off of the money and onto the experience and onto the goal, because from where you are now to where you want to be is just math. And the minister has taught us that Islam is just mathematics. So you just got to put the math together on how to get there. You can get there, but sometimes because we're so emotional when it comes to money, we have to take our mind off of the money and onto the experience, which is what the minister has done. And he's demonstrated. The minister is the greatest, he's the greatest builder and entrepreneur that you will ever find. Not to mention his beauty and his love and his honor, but when you really pay attention, and I was blessed to be around and watch him build and watch how he gives, and he gives and gives and serves, and his love for his father, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, is so magnetic that it made me, somebody who's never seen him, and probably you and everybody else who's listening, we don't know the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but I love him so much that I've seen him. That's because of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So if you think about how he looks at money, he doesn't focus on the money, he focuses on the experiences. And just that little shift can make a difference for us. I hope that answers your question.
That's powerful. No, it did. You actually definitely answered the question, and it brought up another one. In the prayer that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that we as a so-called Negro needs to say at least 7 times a day, it talks about us seeking refuge from being niggardly, right? Being stingy. And in my study of people who are financially successful, I also noticed that they are also charitable. Have you found that? How has being charitable also played a role in your financial success?
You have to be of service. I found that. So here's the challenge, Brother Willie, is that you got to get yourself through the meat grinder and come out on the other side so that you can then begin to control your money so that you can be charitable. Because you can't be petty and make a lot of money. You know, if you petty, then it's going to be hard for you. You're going to be really stressed out. So the idea of being of service and giving more of service value, my personal motto is, I want you to walk away from me, whether it's on a virtual call, whether you see me for 1 second, 2 seconds, you know me a year, to be able to say, I got something from knowing her. She was an asset to me. I never want to be a liability. So in that energy of giving and being an asset and being of service, that's what I get back. So some of the opportunities that I've been able to have is as a result of me being of service and, being an asset. And I can't tell you how Allah will reward you when you're of service. Again, look at the minister. The service he gives, he's given his life. And it's amazing. But the whole idea behind that is to make sure that you are of service and that you give more in service value than what it is that you receive, and make sure that you are an asset, if you can be, to other people. And I take that all the way down again into a granular level. So if anybody who knows me, I try to be of support spiritually, mentally, emotionally, so that when they're around me, they can grow. They can feel like they can expand as a result of being with me or being around me, because that's the level that I want to be at with them. And so I'm really careful to make sure that I'm in relationships where I can be of service. Because sometimes people don't want you to serve them, or they don't let you serve them. It becomes hard, or maybe they got so much going on that you just can't get involved. But the whole idea is you want to look for ways to serve. Actually go out with the intention of being of service, especially to your people, and especially to, this beautiful man who has given us his entire life.
Praise be to Allah. I heard it wasn't Brother Ben's interview, but it was something I saw you on, and you talked about how you were impacted by how a problem in the problem book, problem 30, when it talks about the uncle of Master Farad Muhammad, and it talks about how he's surrounded and robbed completely by the caveman, and how his mind travels at 24 billion miles per second. Can you talk more about how that impacted your view and how you use that information to do what you're doing now?
Yes, sir. So he sets the problem up and says that he's surrounded, the uncle of Master Farad Muhammad is surrounded by the caveman, right? And then after he sets the problem up, he says, but, am I right? His mind travels at the rate of 24 billion miles per second. And he asks a question, correct, how many times can you get to Pluto and back at that rate? Am I right?
Correct. Yes.
So if he says, but, that means you have this condition over here. That means that the solution to your condition is that mind that travels at the rate of 24 billion miles per second.
Wow.
So it goes back to my statement when I said, whatever you want, the distance between where you are and what you want is math. It's your mind. It's how you think, how you conduct yourself, what decisions you make, what choices you make, what's your next move, how do you speak, how delivered. If you know anything about me, I'm extremely detailed. And I'm thinking about what do I choose? What do I do? What's my next step? Because the answer is here in my mind. He didn't say the answer is in the application you make to the government. He didn't say the answer is when you go to church and talk to the pastor. He said, but he's been robbed. He's surrounded. Think about that. You in a situation, you've been robbed, you've been kidnapped, you surrounded. How you gonna get out of that, Brother Willie? But your mind travels at the rate of 24 billion miles per second. So how did the minister rebuild this nation? His mind. That's the average speed of the mind. My guess is that the minister's mind travels faster and further, and he can get to Pluto and back faster than we can.
Wow.
It's his mind when he said, I'm going to stand up and rebuild the work of my father. It's his mind when he said, it's his mind that communicated with you and I that got us on this call today. It's his mind that built these buildings, right? Where we're all propagating the teachings and it's his mind that has created this protective hedge around us so that we're in this little hedge that's surrounded by that his mind has protected us with or surrounded us so that we can learn, so that we can study. It's his mind that said, I'm gonna travel and I'm gonna love the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Master Fard Muhammad so much that it becomes magnetic and contagious. His mind loves them so much that he is now one mind with them.
Wow.
When you see him, you see them.
Daily.
It's one mind. Their minds have fistulated into one vessel through which Almighty God, Allah, flows. It's the mind. So when you see him, he don't have to say it. Unless you're slow, you need him to say it. You see them. So that problem, he has shown us the physical manifestation of the answer to that problem, number 30.
Wow, beautiful, sister. That was beautiful, 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 beautiful. And my next question, you know, you're a successful businesswoman and you accomplished much and you have much more that you want to accomplish. Like you say, you want to be a billionaire. In studying people who are successful and those who are not, I've noticed that one of the major differences between successful people and those who have not reached the success that they say they want, we want, is how the successful people confront fears and their belief in themselves, right? So can you talk about your method of confronting fear and also what has helped you to believe in yourself?
So Brother Willie, this is what I subscribe to. A successful person that's a follower of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is different from a regular successful person. And what do I mean by that? Because we are working at the same time to qualify ourselves for our inheritance, right? So when you think about fear, when you put it in that context, it changes the intensity of the fear. Because if all you worried about is, let me not take this risk, or let me take this risk, or they might fire me, or my business might fail, there's a different weight, as opposed to when I say, I'm working to qualify myself for the inheritance that the messenger said and that Master Fard Muhammad came here to give us. That's a different game. And so I'm gonna work a little harder. I'm gonna keep pushing. So even when you don't see me, I'm still working to qualify myself. My qualification and what I do to work on qualifying myself has nothing to do with what you see. So our success is slightly different because we got a different goal in mind. We know that we have this great inheritance that we want to line ourselves up with. And so with that, we have to be very mindful and we have to be very focused on how we handle things and how we handle people and how we do whatever it is that we do. We have to preserve our life and preserve ourselves, because as the minister begins this next part of his journey, there's a finite number of us that are here that know him and that are with him. So we got to be qualified to go out and teach in his absence. And so that's why success, in my opinion, is different from that of a regular person. Then you say, okay, well then as a mortal, how do I confront my fears? Well, what I learned is to just sit with them. If I find myself worried and upset with something, I sit with it. And I just deal with what I'm feeling. Because again, remember, my mind is traveling at the average rate of 24 billion miles per second. So if I'm sitting with this fear, then guess what? All of a sudden my mind goes, you know what? I got this. I can figure this out. But if I'm running from the emotion, right, and I'm ducking and dodging, and then I'm tripping on this person, and I got all these other things dealing with jealousy, and I ain't got time for that because I'm trying to qualify myself, right? So the fear is something that I sit with. And if I got to sit down and make a list of all of something that I'm afraid of, what's the worst that can happen? What do I want? I always ask myself, what do I want? Any of my clients that I'm working with, I say, what do you want? What do you want? Because soon as you calculate in your mind or you say in your mind what you want, there go that 24 billion miles per second is going to start calculating to get you there. The minister said, I want to rebuild the nation. And so there go that mind. Start churning and attracting people and attracting places and all the things that he needed to build and rebuild and develop and all these great soldiers. We just start coming in. That's from the mind. We can do the same exact thing when it comes to things we're worried about or we're afraid of. At the end of the day, if Allah chose you to be here and to be in a position to be in love with these great teachings, we really don't have anything to be afraid of. So when we feel that fear, we just got to sit with it and let the God in us handle it. And that may sound simple, but yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, finish that last point. Finish that point. You said it may sound simple, but
I was going to say it may sound simple, but it's really not as simple as it sounds. So let me give you an example, Brother Willie.
Yes.
So my business partner and I in Maryland, we built a micro hospital. And we had a lot of enemies when we were putting this hospital together. And I started putting myself in a position where I could think through the problems. And so because they were coming, doing so much stuff and coming so swiftly, I had to then deal with at night when I start feeling that anxiety, like, how do I deal with this? What am I worried about? I had to just sit with it. Before I analyzed it, before I strategized, I had to just sit with it. What they gonna do next? What could they do next? What am I feeling? Because the fact that I have that fear could be the God trying to say to me, Wendy, watch out for this, watch out for that. You know, we had somebody, once we got up and running, cut the power off at the pole. I said, I got you. So now all our connections for everything on the building gonna be on the inside. Cut it off if you want to, you're just gonna cut the whole neighborhood off, and we got a generator. So you understand what I'm saying? So people, I mean, it was just one thing after another, but sitting with that problem, and the way I look at it, I say, what am I feeling? I'm feeling a little anxious about this. So Allah, is this something you're trying to tell me to look out for? Or is this something in me? Let me sit with this and figure this out. If it's something in me that I know I need to deal with it, if it's something that Allah is saying, watch out for, then I know I need to strategize against it. And then I'm ahead of the game.
Wow. So, and the other part of that, what can you share about in regards to the belief that you have in yourself? Because I can't see you accomplishing what you've accomplished if you didn't believe in yourself.
So I have not always believed in myself. But there are certain things about myself that I believe in that I use as stepping stones. Because every time you get a new challenge, you're going to have probably some doubts about yourself, right? I started reading at 4 years old. Nobody taught me how to read. I remember at 3, being able to interpret what I was reading mentally, but because I didn't have the language. And then around 4, I remember being able to articulate it. And so that ability to read became my stepping stone as I went through school, especially through elementary school. I remember coming home in kindergarten and saying to my grandmother, I don't understand why these kids can't read. and and she thought that was so funny, but I was serious. So what I do, Brother Willie, is I find different things about myself that I know are good, and I build on that. Right?
Focus on the best part.
Focus on the best part, and then build on that. And then as I start working, I start saying, okay, Allah, I got that done. I got a little bit more confidence here, because people want to say, you got to believe in yourself. But every time you get a new challenge, you're going to have some level of disbelief, but you just got to keep building on the belief about yourself that you already have, and focus on the best part, just like our lessons say.
Wow, that was, I like that. That was very practical, and it wasn't so like, sometimes we can get so in a theory of it, but it was just focus on that best part. Keep reminding us about the times that we have had these successes. As we transition, what do you remember the first time you physically met the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in person? And if so, what do you remember about that experience, and what was his impact on you?
Yes, I do. It was at the Palace. I had moved to Chicago, and Sister Donna, who was our Vanguard directress, she had chosen different professional sisters. I was already working in the National Secretary's office, but she took us all to the Palace, and we practiced, how to eat and how to sit. And there were a few of us, and we went there. And so that overwhelming feeling that I had, that I told you when I was a little girl, when I was sitting on the floor looking at that Jet magazine, I had that times 100. Wow. And I always get really emotional around the minister. It's just something about him. He brings up just everything. It's like I can't even hardly think straight. And for me, my greatest gift is to see him smile. So,
that's right.
Ooh, to see him smile is like heaven. And if he smiles at you, it's like heaven. And so that experience, the first time, I was very nervous. I couldn't get my food to stay on the fork. I'm scooping the rice up and it keeps falling off, and I don't want to take my finger and slide the food up on the fork, because I know we ain't supposed to touch the food with the finger, but I can't eat. So I end up just scooting the food around and just not eating, because I couldn't, get myself together. And, I just remember him talking, and he's just so loving. And that day he said, he became our father. And, he just told me a month or so ago, he said, I'm your father. And so I that's how I see him, as a father, and as somebody that I want to be proud of me, who I want to make happy, who I want him to be comfortable. I want him to have everything that he wants or he has ever wanted. And that's just how I see him.
Wow. Beautiful, beautiful response, beautiful answer. As you're aware, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has been falsely labeled many things that really don't describe who he is as a person, which is so far from who he really is. One of the most shocking labels I've heard somebody write about him or refer to him as, they said misogynist, and is a person who dislikes or despises or strongly prejudiced against women. And that's just like mind-blowing. From your interactions with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, what can you share to help those who are viewing and listening to understand that the minister is one of the greatest advocates that women, not just even Black women, but women of all colors can have? What can you share about that?
He is a champion for women. Like I said, I was, we were young. There were not a lot of, at that time in the nation, there were not a lot of sisters working in a business capacity. We were young, and the minister supported us and protected us, gave us opportunities that, had I still been in corporate, I would not have had.
Wow.
Putting events together and sitting at the table with dignitaries and being able to, if you're in corporate world, if you're a new graduate, and the minister would let us put reports together and present them to him, and he would, handle us with a certain level of care and concern that I'll never forget. And I know that had I still been in corporate, I never would have experienced that. So he's definitely not that. He loves to see the sisters doing well. He's so proud of us. He's so protective of us. Misogynistic. I don't even know how to respond to that. Like some of the things, Brother Willie, the things that people say, it's so outlandish. I don't even care about it. And that's just how I am. I don't even want to hear it, because it's so crazy. And so my thought, because I get emotional over it, is to say, you know what? I'm going to focus on the best part. That ain't my mission, to focus on this other stuff. I'm going to show you because my attitude is I like to lead by example. So when I travel around the world and they say, oh, but Wendy, we love you. Well, guess who made me? You can't love me without loving. And if you're around me, most of the people that are around me have a tremendous amount of respect for the minister, to where you'll be asking yourself, are they in the nation? Are they registered? Because that's just how I look at it. I feel like our impact, and the more the world sees us and the more good we do as believers and followers, the more we can counteract some of those claims. See, when people don't see us, it's easy to say he's misogynistic, he's this, he's that, because you may not see any evidence otherwise. But the more you see us doing well, the more you see us elevating, the more you see us breaking records and handling business and solving problems and leading and showing that these truly are life-giving teachings, then you can't really say those things about him, because there's evidence in your face. It's all right for us to get on here and make a testimony, but where's the evidence in your face? That's like me lying on your mama and you right there, and I see the beautiful son she's raised. Do you understand what I'm saying?
That's right. That's right. That's right. No, I'm with you. Beautiful, beautiful. If you, like you said, you talked about the beauty of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and you articulated it so well in what you're saying, and also what you're showing. And when you just say about how those around you and people interacted with them, they will say, wow, are they members of the Nation of Islam? Which, when I heard you say that, that's, to me, you are that same love that you have for the minister, you're putting it in others, and you couldn't put it in others if you didn't have it in yourself. So if you had to think about three qualities of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, what would be three qualities that you would want the world to know about him? And can you give some examples of the minister manifesting or demonstrating those three qualities?
Love and sensitivity. I would put those two together. And he loves people. He loves Allah. So he loves anything Allah has created. I've never seen him hate on anybody. I've never seen him, I mean, times where there's people that might have gotten on our nerves as staff. The minister is patient, he's loving. So that's one of them. He's very loving and very sensitive.
Mm.
The second one is that he is a successful warrior for Allah.
Wow.
And the word warrior probably scares people, but see, you can't be a warrior for Allah and not be a great person.
Mm.
He's a survivor because
Mm.
they have attacked him in every single way, not just physically, from the radiated seeds they put in his body.
Mm-hmm.
He's the chosen one.
Mm-hmm.
They've said all kind of stuff about him. Somebody always got something to say about him. Anything he's trying to do. I was looking at a tape the other day from 1989, and he was working on something, and I remember literally sitting on the phone, Brother Willie, trying to find a place for him to speak. I remember we were working on the event at the Jacob Javits Center in New York, and all the drama we had because they did not want him there. And he just keeps going. He continues to be loving. He perseveres, and he's driven. So I think if the world gets that and sees that, there has to be something about a man like that. See, it's one thing if somebody beats you down and you go lay down. But this man got to believe. See, if you know anything about human nature, you got to say, let me look into who this man is, because he has not backed down.
That's right.
He don't come out lying. Everything he says is truthful. He's loving. Just his presence is healing. Let me tell you, Brother Willie, I met with him about a year ago, and before I went into the meeting, I had a headache. Because I was not worried about the meeting, but just, energy was just all over the place. He walked in the room, headache went. That's because of who he is. That's his presence. I can't tell you how many people talk about how he's healed them. And as I sat there and met with him, and I'm not being crazy or spooky, I literally felt something inside of me changing and being restored from his presence. And so anytime a man can go in front of people and talk to people, drawing 2 million men to the mall and drawing crowds of people and healing people with his words, that, to me, that's worthy of looking at that person, saying, let me see who that person is. So if you want to listen to what all these other people say, knowing how haterism works, then maybe you just meant to be where you are, and maybe you should stay there. Because to me, I don't see how mathematically, even if you don't love him and know him, I don't see how mathematically you can conclude that those things are true based on his track record and based on the impact that he has on his people. Same thing with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The most Honorable Elijah Muhammad pulled people out of the gutter.
That's right.
And you hear people say, I was nothing. People who were sick, people who were on drugs. Same thing the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is doing. So where were these people? Some of us, if you saw us before we knew these teachers, you wouldn't even recognize us.
That's a fact.
All you got to do is look at the before and after. And I don't even see how you could mathematically conclude or deduct that what they're saying is true. So if you see what these people are saying and you believe that, I mean, God bless you. Maybe you just need to stay there, because I just don't get it. Because we all, as Black people especially, have people in our family. We know where we were. Some people say, hey, look, I was gone. I taught orientation. I know how sisters came in the door. Wow. And how them having access to these teachings and what it has done for them and how it changed them. And when I see them today, I see them still striving. It brings tears to my eyes. I see them striving. I see them with their husbands and families. I know that sister when she came in the door, and I know where she was. And I know what these teachings did. So to me, it makes no mathematical sense what they say about them. And I don't even think we need to worry about it. We just need to continue to be examples and continue to be witness bearers and evidence. You know, I was reading in the Quran during Ramadan that it said that, I forget the surah, Allah bears witness that there is no God but He. And I said, why would Allah have to bear witness that there is no God but He? So I went to the footnote, and then it said Allah bears witness to Himself through His creation, through nature. So if we are those that are witness bearers, and we're out here breaking records, looking good, healthy, handling our business, leading our people, resurrecting our people, we don't have to say nothing to these people that got something to say about our leader, because the proof is in the pudding.
Go ahead.
The proof is in us. We the evidence. Go
ahead. And what you're saying is bears witness and is right in line with the words of Master Farah Muhammad. He said, why do the lost found dispute about our Savior? He said, cannot they see a mighty change taking place in every living thing? You see that change. Beautiful. So we know that some people may not know, but you and your staff in the process with the Sajda house, right? Can you share with those who may not know about this endeavor? It's a two-part question. Why have you embarked on it? And like, why have you and your team embarked on this endeavor? We'll start there.
All right. So Sajda House is the former national home of the Nation of Islam and the home of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, at 4847 South Woodlawn Avenue in Chicago. And this is where I talk about how Allah pushing you to other levels, and you gotta find the best part, Brother Willie. So when I found out that the house was for sale, and there were other people who were on the track to get the house, and then all of a sudden, 9 days before they were gonna take it to auction or whatever they were gonna do with it, I get this alert on my computer. I subscribe to foreclosure.com and auction.com. And you put in, when you subscribe, you put in zip codes of properties that you're interested in. And so what it'll do is it'll send you alerts. Like if I say I'm interested in properties in New Orleans, it'll send me all the foreclosed or pre-foreclosure properties in New Orleans or whatever, for example. The house pops up. I get to the office and the house pops up on my computer. Immediately, I'm challenged as a believer, because, and Allah backed me in a corner because I didn't have time to ask nobody. I didn't have time to say, let me try to see if I can send a letter or an email to the minister and see what he thinks. The people that were going to get it, whatever happened, they weren't able to get it. I called the bank. They said, we don't want to talk to nobody else, Muhammad, about this house. They said, you got, true story. My brother would tell you that. My brother, I was so nervous about it, and because I was like, man, I don't want to step on nobody's toes. I don't know what to do. I told my brother, I said, let's call the real estate agent. I'll call the bank. The bank said, nope. I said, well, would you take $50,000? Let me hold it, because I was going to be in Africa, and I knew I was not going to be able to close on the house in time to save it from this deadline they had on there, with 263 people registered to bid on it. And but Allah backed me into a corner, because my brother called me back. He said, sis, they said the same thing. They don't want to talk to nobody else, Muhammad, about this house. and it's got to be a cash deal. So now I'm in a corner. So Allah says, okay, so what kind of believer are you if you can buy the messenger's home, but you don't do it because you're worried about something else? So I didn't really have much of a choice, not to mention, plus I mean, I wanted to do it, but Allah made sure that no doubt crept in and that I didn't have any time for doubt. And then two other things happened, Brother Willie. One, my business partner, who's a surgeon, he was adamant. He was on my case. He kept saying, what you gonna do? Why don't you push the button? Why don't you get the house? What are you waiting on? And he bothered me so much about it that I thought I was getting a headache. I had this buzzing that was starting to happen in my head. And maybe around 4 or 5 o'clock, I was like, let me just go home because I got to figure this out, but I need some quiet time to think. But at the same time, the clock is ticking because the agent told me, she said, Wendy, I'll try to work it out for you, but you know, you don't really have that much time. Plus, I got to be in Africa on Saturday. This is like on a Monday. And he just kept pressing me. And I went home that day, laid across the bed, and with this buzzing in my head, I took a Tylenol. And about 2 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and I saw what appeared, in my opinion, was the messenger standing in my bedroom. Wow. He didn't say anything. It was no great conversation. I looked, he looked, I sat up a little, he still looked. And when I went to swing my legs over to the side of the bed and I looked back, it was gone.
Wow.
And I said, okay. So the next day, I said, I got to do this. And I went into my savings, bought the house. And so my then became all this wonderful inspiration from Allah in wanting to enshrine the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in that house. So people have said, oh, it's going to be a conference center. It's going to be a bed and breakfast. I'm going to live there. It's none of that. That house is one of the most important pieces of property in modern Black history. There's been more leaders in that property than any other property in the world in modern Black history. And so we're going to give the believers, inshallah, and people from around the world an opportunity to come there and experience that house. And so the minister will not be left out of that house. He's going to be right there with his father so that people can learn and see them together. Because again, like I told you, when you see one, you see the other. And so it's been such a beautiful journey of, restoring that house. That I don't even post pictures because I want you all to see the shock and awe of the emotions that you feel when you walk in that house. I'll say it this way. I don't know what I could have done for Allah to bless me like that. Wow. And I had a dream, Brother Willie, maybe about 2 weeks after we closed on the house. It was the night before we were about to come back from Africa. I was over there working on a hospital deal. And I was in a casino. And I remember, you know how you have a dream and you kind of reject the dream because I don't go to casinos. You know, I'm not a casino person. But I was in a casino and I was at this table. It was like a green felt table. And I had this stack of golden chips. And it must have been a lot of money because people were looking at me like, what's she gonna do? What's she gonna do? And the dealer asked me, I think it's like the dealer is what you call it, asked me what I was gonna bet on. And I looked down at the table, there was a jet, there was like a yacht, there was some money on the felt. And then right in front of me, there was a picture of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I took the chips and pushed it right on top of them. And then it was like ding, 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 and everything just started falling down.
Wow.
And I just said, let's go. Let's go. I'm all in. And so this house will, inshallah, help the believers. Our focus is the aspect of doing for self, right? Because I really want to help us to establish our Muslim economy.
Yes.
The messenger built an $80 million plus empire in right around 10 years or so. He's already done it. So we can do that and then some. And so we're going to focus on the nation's businesses. So the first floor of the house will, inshallah, look exactly the way it looked at a certain point in time when the messenger lived there. Because when I saw him, he had a little hair on his head. It looked like it was like the 60s. So the first floor, when you walk in there, you will be able to experience what it looked like when he lived there. On the second floor are our exhibit floors, where we will exhibit the nation's businesses. There's bedrooms on that floor, but we'll exhibit like Muhammad Speaks, the bakery, the supermarket. We'll also highlight other impactful Black entrepreneurs who impact our community, like Tom Burrell. I have a rule with Sajda House that I've written into my foundation that every time the exhibits at Sajda House change, it has to be an MGT that is exhibited in at least one of those exhibits. Our first exhibit will be on Mother Khadija Farrakhan and her entrepreneurial endeavors. We are using technology, and our technology composition is called He Lives. So you will be able to see through technology the life, inshallah, the life, the mind, the spirit, and experience the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And then, and so there's so much about the house. I could go on, but it's truly, truly incredible. Just to give you an example of how it's meant for us to see this place, in that the house has been vacant for 20 something years. And if you know anything about, vacant houses, generally the rodents will come in and eat up the wood, right? You see like the little chip marks and bite marks like along the baseboard. And so a lot of times in a lot of these older houses, if you pay attention, you'll see where a lot of the baseboards and stuff are replaced, because if they've been vacant, maybe there's been water damage or something like that, or there's been rodents that have been there. We had a family of raccoons that had been living in that house, and those raccoons kept the rats and stuff out of the house. The woodwork in the house is nearly perfect. Took us some time to look, Allah is something. Took us some time to get the raccoons out of there, right? My brother named them the Walters. We walked in the house one day, Brother Willie, and we put the key in. He said, "Let me go in first, sis." And I thank Allah for, you all got to thank him for me when you meet him, because he braved it. I was in Africa and he went in that house with them raccoons. I'm talking about big raccoons. I'm not talking about little cute raccoons. I'm talking about probably about the size of a German Shepherd. Big old raccoons. To where they were, you could see their footprints on the ledges of the windows. That's how tall they were. But he braved it. And one day we went there. When I came in town, he said, "Walter." And I said, "Who are you calling?" He said, "Oh, that's the raccoons. I'm just letting them know we here." So we called them the Walters. But we caught him, Brother Willie, with a marshmallow and a trap.
Wow.
And we got him and trapped him. And I told them, I hopefully they honored my wishes. I said, take them to the forest preserve and let them
And let
go.
'em-
Don't kill them, because they saved us and saved our house. And so it's a blessing, and that's what Sajda House is. We will have virtual tours and in-person tours as well. We won't be able to have as many people
Wow.
in person as we would have had were it not for the pandemic. So we are going to do some
Yeah.
virtual tours, but we'll have some in-person tours as well. It'll just be less people. Oh, we also are going to showcase the table talks. So a lot of people have never had an opportunity to hear the table talks. And so what better place to showcase table talks is in the actual dining room where the table talks took place. So
Praise be
you'll be
to
able
Allah.
to experience that, and experience those, and really just see. One other beautiful thing is the kitchen is so apropos
Wow.
for today. He had the flow in the
Mm,
kitchen that Mother Clara put together was, I call it COVID friendly, right? You had to
mm,
walk in, wash your hands. There was a station for that. There was a station where you dumped the groceries that was separate from the rest of the kitchen. There was a wall and a door there. So when the groceries came in from the outside, they had to be inspected and sanitized in that area and then brought into the main part of the kitchen, where then it was prepped and cooked and then served on the table where the table talks were. So inshallah, you'll be able to see all of that.
Sister, I just want to say thank you. And I know for many other people who are watching this video in the comments, they're saying thank you. And you are, to me, you are a further verification of something I heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan say at the dinner table. He said that for every problem that we have in our nation, he said we have a solution is also in our nation. So thank you, sister. And these last few questions, it's a two-part question, this one. When the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan heard about you taking on this endeavor and your desire in this historical endeavor, what was his response? And was there what guidance or anything did he share with you that you can share with us?
He said my mind was in the right place. And he told me not to worry about where my help would come from.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just kept going with that. And we had a whole, maybe somewhere around an hour or two, I don't know, maybe it was a 2-hour meeting or so. And he just was magnificent, but he was very proud. He smiled, and I told him, I said, I just want to see you smile. And he said that he was smiling deeply. And that made my life.
Last two questions. What words can you share with sisters in the Nation of Islam who may have ideas, but may be sitting on those ideas due to fear, due to limited thinking, due to procrastination, or obedience to this mystery God? What will you tell them?
I would say that first off, you have to understand why you might be afraid. Part of the problem is because in our society, modesty is used as a weapon. So what society says to us is, if you're modest, get somewhere, sit down, and shut up. But if you take your clothes off, I'll give you a loud voice. I had one of my friends from Africa say to me, Wendy, you're doing such a great job, because in America, the strippers are winning. And I said, well, I could dissect that, in that our sisters, they're coming through a process and they'll be with us, inshallah, at some point. But what is that saying about this society and the media propaganda that we are all subject to? What it's saying to us is that if you're a Muslim woman, if you're sanctified, if you're saved, then you got to be quiet. You can't have style. You can't have creativity. you can't make too big of an impact. And so what I'm saying is, let that go and create. Because the more you create, just like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, the more you work. When you're afraid, work. When you're tired, work. When you want to resurrect somebody, work. So you can, in my opinion, you can interchange creativity with that. When you're tired, create. When you want to make money, create. When you want to make an impact, create. When you want to draw more sisters to the teachings, create. So I'm saying work and create and do what it is that Allah put you on the planet to do. And I don't think you will have any pushback from the minister, because he's not misogynistic. He don't have a problem with sisters doing well and leading. So we got to get over that. We got to let that go, because Black women are leading the revolution right now. And we got the supreme wisdom to be those leaders. We got Black female mayors. We got Black female legislators. We got Black female millionaires and billionaires.
Right.
And there's no reason why the sisters in the Nation of Islam can't be that and then some. So I'm saying, let it go and get to work. Create and push forward. Don't hesitate. Don't take no prisoners. Let's get busy. Let the minister see us doing well.
Listen, and everything that you're saying is right in the line with the Savior. He said that he could sit on I'm paraphrasing, he said he can sit on the highest place and said that the best nation is in the Nation of Islam. He was saying because of the sisters.
That's right.
Make this one comment, and then I'm gonna ask somebody ask the question. For those who are on Facebook specifically, can you all begin to start typing in the comments? What are you getting from this interview? What stood out to you? What has impacted you? What has moved you? If you can leave your comments, as many comments as you please. I just want to make sure, because I like getting feedback so we can measure our work, and I'll make sure that you get the copies of what they said as well. Someone asked a question. They said, can you speak on how we must inspire our children to also be in the mind of serving God's people? And it's a two-part question they have. And how is the condition of the heart connected to what our mind does?
So the first part, how can we inspire our children? Was that it, yes. Brother Willie?
Yes. How can we inspire our children to be in the mindset of serving God's people?
We have to be examples. Remember, I talked about that disconnect. We can't be one way at the mosque and another way at home. That has to be together. We have to see our parents and our family members have to see that. I'll give you a perfect example, and I think I see that she's on the call. Sister Lisa R. Muhammad in Indianapolis, I'm her fish. She brought me into the nation. But her mother and father had been soldiering for years. And so her example of that she saw growing up of her mother and father soldiering in the nation, her mother at one point as an MGT captain, her father at a point as an FOI captain, as a minister, was an example for her. And so then that became her life. And for most of us, we will do what we see our parents do. So that has to be our life, so that our youth see us. See, we fail them, Brother Willie, because we send them to work at McDonald's. We send them to work at places where they out there with people who steal, who rob, who set a bad example, who molest them. And then we expect that they're going to come back and love to serve their people. Well, we got to provide jobs that they go and work and intern at. We have to provide an environment that they grow up in, and so that, and we set a standard that they end up loving and then want to recreate and expand. We can't send them out in the world. We can't be disconnected. You can't send them out there and expect them to love their people when you put them at the mercy of people who don't love them.
Ooh.
So that's why we got to get busy. And then I think you said the condition of the heart as it relates to the mind. Give me that question
And
again.
how does the, and in fact, that's the sister Lisa R. She the one that asked the question. How does the condition to the heart affect the mind? You know, how does the condition of the heart, let me get it. She says, how is the condition of the heart connected to what the mind does?
Wow, that the heart connection is then, in my opinion, is what provides direction to the mind, right? So I mentioned my love for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and as a developer and as a multi-million-dollar developer, that's my platform. So now that's the direction I'm turned in. And so now I use these 24 billion miles per second in my brain to go in the direction that my heart is in. It's just like when you love somebody, right? If you have a mother who loves her child, then she's going to do everything she can for her child. She will have supernatural strength for her child because of her love for her child. So again, the minister is a beautiful example of that love. And so now we in turn have to be an example of that love, so that then our brain power, our willpower, our efforts, our choices, our desires are couched in that love.
Wow, beautiful, sis, beautiful. And just listen, you are inspiration to me. And I heard about you before actually having the opportunity to meet you, and I follow you on social media and what you're doing. And you're right, like you said, your attention to detail, because I saw you were even in this restoration of the house, you even have the actual doorknobs that were used during that actual time, right? And so that's that is a blessing.
Yes, sir.
How can, is there any way those of us who are in the Nation of Islam and even outside of the Nation of Islam can help you in what you're doing with the house? If so, let us know. And lastly, is a two-part. If there was anything that you wanted to share that you have not had the opportunity to share, because I didn't ask that question, here's your opportunity to do so right now.
Yes, sir. So with Sajda House, there's a few things. One of the things, if you want to be involved, I want you to send me an email at sajdahouse@gmail.com. So a couple things. We're going to be doing sponsorships. So if you want to sponsor the garden, inshallah, we'll have the front yard will be called Elijah's Garden. And so if you want to sponsor that, there's an opportunity to do that. If you want to sponsor an exhibit, if you want to sponsor, say, Mother Farrakhan's exhibit, or the Tom Burrell exhibit, or the Muhammad Speaks exhibit. If you want to sponsor He Lives, which is the technology exhibit, there'll be opportunities to do that. Brother Willie, one of the things that we're doing that is so beautiful, the house is surrounded by copper. And so we have over 200 or so linear feet of copper. And so we have been blessed to find a foundry that is going to melt that copper for us and repurpose it into Sajda House coins. And you'll be able to purchase those coins, inshallah, in the next few weeks. And so we will want everybody's support. We'll put out videos and you'll be able to see examples of them, but they'll be about the size of a dollar coin. They're 39 millimeters in diameter, a pretty big coin. I won't tell you what they look like, but they're copper coins. And you know, collecting precious metals is a great way to invest your money. But you'll be able to have a piece of the house by purchasing one of the coins. That's another way that you could financially support. And then when we get to the point where we are ready to do tours, our goal was to be open October 2020. Right now we're on target for that. With the pandemic, my guess is that we may have some challenges, but we're going to keep pushing for that. But we need everybody to go on the tours, sponsor an exhibit, sponsor any aspect of the process. If you want to sponsor the mechanical equipment, you can do that. And so just send me an email, tell me what you're interested in sponsoring. And what we'll do for people, let's say somebody who sponsors the garden or whatever, we'll put like a placard. Oh, one other thing. We also have this incredible statue that is going to be there. It's called the Cracked Atom. And it was inspired. I was inspired by our lessons on the Cracked Atom. And it's 7 members of the African diaspora surrounding the cracked atom and touching the cracked atom. And they're all entrepreneurs. They're holding a briefcase. And on the briefcase, the top of the briefcase has an imprint of the Messenger's Fez, and the bottom has an imprint of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's Fez. And in the middle of it, it says the mind of an entrepreneur. So we're using those wisdoms and those teachings to build our Muslim economy. And so we're blessed that there's aspects of that you can sponsor as well. We're working on a few things. I won't spill all the beans. I'm gonna hold back on that. But anyway, this incredible statue, if you go on our Instagram page, Sajda House, SAJDAHHOUSE, you'll see some videos of the rendering of the statue. It's absolutely breathtaking. I can't wait for you all to see it, but send me an email, sajdahouse@gmail.com, and let me know that you want to be sponsors, and I'll send you a list of all the different ways in which you can be a sponsor at Sajda House, and keep you on the mailing list so that you can also know different things we need as we move along.
Wow, sister, beautiful, beautiful. And we're gonna continue to put the word out about people sponsoring. I'll send you an email to find out more information and see what we can do. Which one, not what we can do, which one we're gonna do to help out.
Yes, sir.
It's all of our responsibility. Sister, thank you, and thank you for your testimony. And I appreciate you accepting it, and believers are enjoying it. For those who are on social media, please, I always keep asking people, please leave some comments. What did you get from our sister's testimony and what she shared, which was so beautiful? Please continue to do so. And let me do our closing announcements for those who are on, who are watching it, and we'll get ready to close out. So we heard from our sister. Remember what I said, inshallah. On next week, we're going to have our brother Abdul Waliullah Muhammad. And he's the student representative of the mosque in San Diego, California. And if you've never been to San Diego, listen, if I had to move somewhere, San Diego would be the place. It is so beautiful, and the weather is so beautiful as well. So for those who are on, continue to leave comments. Leave the comments, share this. And sister, what we do is we will download this and put it on YouTube, and I'll send you the link, and I'll also send you the different comments. Thank you. Was there anything else you wanted to share that you didn't get a chance to share?
No, I'm sure I forgot something, but it's okay. All praises due to Allah.
Thank you, sister, and may Allah continue to bless you. And thank you to everybody who tuned in. And inshallah, we'll see you all on next Sunday. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.